Most preppers think they've got their fallout shelter figured out. Basement bunker, underground vault, reinforced concrete walls. But when the real threat comes, nuclear fallout, radiation clouds, the kind of disaster that makes the air itself a weapon, those conventional spots might be the first places compromised, overcrowded, or targeted. The shelters everyone knows about are the ones that fail first. What you need are the hidden options, the unconventional spaces that offer real protection when everything else collapses. If you're serious about surviving nuclear fallout, you need to think beyond the obvious. Subscribe now, because what you're about to learn could be the difference between radiation sickness and walking out alive when the dust settles. Let's get one thing straight. Fallout shelters aren't just about being underground. They're about mass, density, and distance from radioactive particles. The radiation from nuclear fallout doesn't care about your concrete bunker if it's poorly sealed or located in a flood zone. It doesn't care about your expensive prep if you haven't thought about ventilation, water contamination, or the structural integrity of the space when everyone else is clawing to get in. Real survival means understanding what actually blocks gamma rays and beta particles, and then finding those spaces in places no one else is looking. The first hidden spot is something most people walk past every single day without realizing its potential. The center stairwell of a mid-rise building. Not the basement, not the ground floor. The interior stairwell, specifically between the 3rd and 5th floors in buildings with at least 7 stories. Why? Because this zone gives you mass above and below. Fallout settles on rooftops and ground surfaces. If you're in a basement, you've got the ground level and everything outside pressing radiation down on you. If you're on the top floors, you're exposed to roof contamination. But that middle zone, surrounded by concrete, brick, and multiple floors of shielding, creates a natural barrier. The stairwell itself is usually a reinforced core, built to handle structural load and fire safety. It's dense, it's enclosed, and it's often overlooked during evacuation chaos because people either go up or down, not into the middle. You'll need to seal the stairwell doors with plastic sheeting and duct tape, create an airlock if possible, and ensure you've got supplies staged there before disaster strikes. Water, food, radiation detectors, and a plan for waste management. The key advantage here is that you're not in a known shelter, so you're not competing with panicked crowds. You're using existing infrastructure that's already built to protect. And if the building has a reinforced elevator shaft adjacent to the stairwell, even better. That's additional mass. This isn't a long-term solution, but for the critical first 48 to 72 hours when radiation levels are highest, this spot can save your life while others are crammed into obvious basements or dying on the street. The second hidden spot is even more unexpected: the walk-in freezer of a commercial kitchen or restaurant. Before you dismiss this, understand the science. Walk-in freezers are built with thick insulation, dense walls, and heavy-duty sealing mechanisms designed to maintain temperature. That insulation and mass provide surprisingly effective radiation shielding. The walls are often lined with metal, foam insulation, and exterior panels that create multiple layers of material. Exactly what you need to block radioactive particles. Add to that the fact that these freezers are usually located in interior spaces, away from exterior walls and windows, and you've got a legitimate fallout refuge. The biggest challenge is ventilation. You can't seal yourself in a freezer and expect to breathe for long. You'll need to disable the cooling system, crack the door slightly with a sealed airlock setup, or rig a filtered air system using HEPA filters and ductwork. This isn't improvisation. This is something you plan and prep in advance. Scout locations now. Know which restaurants, grocery stores, or food service facilities have walk-in freezers in interior positions. Understand the layout. If society collapses and fallout is imminent, you're not asking permission, you're taking action. The freezer's thick walls, combined with the surrounding building structure, can reduce radiation exposure significantly. Stock it with water, rations, and a battery-powered radiation detector. This is your fortress when the obvious shelters are overrun. The third spot is one that's hiding in plain sight but almost never discussed in prepper circles. The loading dock area of large retail stores, specifically the space between the dock and the storage area. These zones are built with reinforced concrete, heavy-duty construction, and multiple layers of material because they're designed to handle heavy machinery, constant loading, and structural stress. Their interior spaces, often surrounded by thick walls, storage racks filled with goods, and additional buffering from the main building. Radiation shielding isn't about one thick wall, it's about cumulative mass. A loading dock area gives you that. What makes this even better is that it's not a space people think about during a crisis. Evacuations focus on homes, community shelters, and basements. No one's running to the back of a Walmart or a distribution center, but you should be. The key is positioning yourself in the deepest part of the dock area, away from exterior doors and surrounded by as much stored material as possible. Pallets of goods, boxes, equipment, all of that adds shielding. You can create a makeshift shelter by stacking materials around you, building walls of mass that further reduce radiation penetration. Bring tarps, plastic sheeting, and tape to seal gaps. Bring water, food, and a filtration system. And most importantly, bring a radiation meter so you can monitor levels and know when it's safe to move. This isn't about comfort, this is about survival. The loading dock might be cold, dirty, and industrial, but it's got the mass and structure you need when fallout is raining down. And because it's not a traditional shelter, you're avoiding the chaos, the disease, and the conflict that come with overcrowded evacuation points. The fourth hidden spot is something most people would never consider: the interior bathroom of a large multi-story parking garage, specifically below ground level. Parking garages are built with massive amounts of concrete and rebar. They're designed to support thousands of pounds of weight across multiple levels. That means density. That means shielding. If you can get to a bathroom or utility room on a below-grade level, you're surrounding yourself with concrete on all sides: floor, ceiling, and walls. Above you are layers of concrete slabs and parked vehicles. Around you are thick structural walls. Below you, more concrete and earth. The reason this works is the same reason basement bunkers work, but with a critical advantage. No one's looking for shelter in a parking garage. People abandon parking garages during disasters. They're seen as places to leave, not places to hide. That gives you isolation, which means less risk of contamination from panicked crowds, less competition for resources, and less chance of violence. You'll need to prep this space in advance. Stage supplies in a hidden corner of the bathroom or utility closet. Water, food, radiation gear, plastic sheeting, duct tape, and a battery-powered radio. Seal the door, create an airlock if possible, and settle in for the critical fallout period. The challenge here is water and sanitation. Parking garage bathrooms might not have running water after a nuclear event. You'll need to bring your own and plan for waste. But the structural advantages are undeniable. The layers of concrete, the below-grade position, and the isolation make this a viable fallout refuge when every traditional shelter is compromised. The fifth and final hidden spot is the most controversial, but potentially the most effective. The center of a large, abandoned industrial building, specifically in the area beneath heavy machinery or furnaces. Abandoned factories, warehouses, and plants are everywhere. They're forgotten, ignored, and often avoided. But they're built with industrial-grade materials: thick steel, reinforced concrete, and dense construction designed to handle extreme conditions. If you can identify a facility with large furnaces, boilers, or heavy equipment still in place, the area directly beneath or around that machinery provides incredible shielding. Why? Because industrial equipment is dense and massive. A large furnace might have thick steel walls, fire brick lining, and concrete foundations. All of that is shielding. If you position yourself in the shadow of that mass, you're adding layers of protection that few other spaces can match. The building itself provides additional shielding, and the fact that it's abandoned means you're not dealing with crowds. You're alone, which is exactly where you want to be during fallout. The risks here are real: structural instability, potential chemical contamination, lack of utilities, and the fact that you're in an unsecured location. But if you scout these places in advance, test structural integrity, and stage supplies, you can turn an abandoned industrial site into a legitimate fallout shelter. Bring tools to secure doors and windows. Bring plastic sheeting to seal contamination entry points. Bring enough water and food for at least 2 weeks, because you're not leaving until radiation levels drop. And bring a weapon, because if anyone else figures out what you're doing, you'll need to defend your position. These 5 hidden spots aren't about comfort or convenience. They're about physics, density, and survival. When the sirens wail and the mushroom cloud rises, you won't have time to debate options. You need to know now where you're going, how you're getting there, and what you're doing when you arrive. The preppers who survive fallout aren't the ones with the fanciest bunkers or the most expensive gear. They're the ones who understand radiation shielding, who think unconventionally, and who act decisively when everyone else is paralyzed by fear. Every single one of these spots requires advanced preparation. You can't just show up during a crisis and hope it works. You need to scout locations now. You need to stage supplies now. You need to understand the layout, the access points, and the potential hazards now. Walk through these spaces, measure distances, test door seals, identify water sources, plan for waste. Think through every detail, because when fallout starts falling, you won't get a second chance. And here's the reality most preppers won't admit. The best fallout shelter is the one no one else knows about. The moment a shelter becomes public knowledge, it becomes a target. Overcrowding leads to resource depletion, disease, and violence. The shelters that save lives are the ones that remain hidden, the ones that are occupied by people who planned ahead and kept their mouths shut. That's you. That's why you're watching this. You're not looking for reassurance or feel-good survival fantasies. You're looking for real information that actually works when the world falls apart. So here's what you do next. Take a notebook and start mapping your area. Identify mid-rise buildings with reinforced stairwells. Find commercial kitchens with walk-in freezers. Locate retail stores with loading docks. Scout parking garages with below-grade bathrooms. Search for abandoned industrial sites with heavy machinery. Document everything. Take photos. Measure distances from your home or bug-out location. Determine travel routes and backup routes. Then start staging supplies. You don't need to fill these spaces with a year's worth of food. You need enough to survive the first 2 weeks of peak fallout. Water, food, radiation detection, sealing materials, and basic medical supplies. Test your plans. Do a trial run. Go to one of these locations and see how long it takes you to get there. See if you can access the space. See if you can seal it. See if the shielding math actually works with a radiation meter. This isn't a game. This is rehearsal for the moment when your life depends on execution, not improvisation. And if you want to go deeper, you'll find in the pinned comment some guides and documents that can take your preparedness to the next level. Check them out when you're ready. The truth is, most people won't do this. Most people will keep relying on government shelters, official evacuation plans, and the hope that someone else will save them. But you're not most people. You're the one who understands that survival is a decision you make now, not a hope you cling to later. You're the one who knows that when fallout turns the sky gray and the air deadly, the only people who survive are the ones who prepared for the exact scenario everyone else refused to believe would happen. Don't just listen, act. Like this video, comment below with which hidden spot surprised you most, and share this with someone who needs to hear it before it's too late. Subscribe, because the next video might be the one that saves your life when conventional wisdom fails. The clock is ticking, and the shelters everyone knows about are the ones that fail first. Be smarter, be hidden, be ready,